So I was thinking about what we were going to speak this week about, and I was trying to get to the essence of what it means to be a Jew. What does it mean to be a Jew? What makes us different, let's say, from non-Jews? You know, we're 0.001% of the world's population. I don't know if you guys ever.
We're the chosen people?
Yes, you're the chosen ones. That's what they teach you in Reform Daycare as well when I was growing up. But what does it mean to be a Jew? So where does the word Jew come from? It comes from, anybody know? Yehudi, which comes from Yehuda. So where does this come from? Leah, right, was supposed to marry Esav. Esav was a very bad person. He was known for hunting in the fields, which the Torah uses as a euphemism for murdering and for raping and pillaging women and taking advantage of situations. He was really not a good guy. And Leah was destined spiritually for him. That was supposed to be her zivug. And Rachel was supposed to marry Yaakov. And because Leah cried and prayed every day in Hibodedut, so as a result of that, Hashem had rachamim on her. He had empathy for her. And not only did she marry a good guy, she married Yaakov, who was supposed to marry Rachel, her sister. She married him first. And not only that, out of all the 4 wives, she had the first 4 kids. She had the firstborn Reuven, she had Shimon, she had Levi. Levi is the first of what ended up being the Kohanim, who were the spiritual leaders of the Jewish people forever, right? All from Leah. And then, where do we get the name Yehudi from? We get it from the 4th son. That on the 4th son, she said, this is just unbelievable. There's 3 other wives. I wasn't even supposed to marry this one. I now have the first 4 kids, which means I'm going to end up having more children, or at least equal or more than the rest of them. And with this, she named him Yehuda, meaning thank you. That because she realized that this was unbelievable. It's not just that she had a 4th kid and it's amazing I had a kid. It's that I was destined for Gehenna. I was destined for a terrible life. I was supposed to have a horrible life.
She doesn't really know that.
What? She didn't know that.
She could have changed him to Beitzad.
Right, it's true. But I'm just saying that on paper, she was destined to marry Esav, right? So he wasn't such a good guy. And it is true that the Torah teaches that when you have a good woman, it's very likely the man is going to come along. It's true. But you don't know. She definitely won out more with Yaakov, I would say, than with Esav. So you see that everything like really flipped, and the gifts just kept coming, and she was just so overwhelmed by the time she had the 4th kid that she just said, thank you. Like, I have nothing else to say. I don't even know what else to tell you. This is unbelievable. And Yehuda now is the birth of kingship in the Jewish people, and Mashiach comes from him, and King David comes from him. And they all came from this concept of Yehuda, which is thank you. Right? We just had Hanukkah, and Hanukkah is very connected to, in the 10 Sfirot, I don't know if you guys are familiar, it's based on Kabbalah, that there's 10, so to speak, divine energies which are constantly creating in the world, meaning Hashem uses different energies to create things in reality. Like, for instance, it says that when Hashem created the world, he did it beher ba'am, which means with this he created them. But if you flip the letters around, it spells ba'avraham. So they learn out, for the sake of Avraham, Hashem created the world. But Kabbalistically, Avraham represents a sphere called chesed, which means love, which is an energy of expansion without limit. And that's really what Avraham was. So Avraham, even though he was a real person, he also represented an energy or a source of creative power that Hashem uses to create the world with. So therefore, how does Hashem reveal himself in the world? He does it first through Avraham, meaning first through love. That's why you see many people when they come back to Judaism, they're doing it first from love. And then ultimately, as a result of that, a lot of times they come to yira, to fear, and things like this. But you see that the beginning for a lot of Bali Tshuva is love. Why? Because Avraham's the first, so to speak, convert Bal Tshuva, right? And so he's the first revelation of God. Love. So this holiday of Hanukkah is connected to the sphere of Hod. Hod is Aaron, a Kohen. And his whole thing is gratitude. He never complained. Things happened to him. He lost children. He never complained once. His whole thing was, thank you, thank you. To the extent that even though he was the leader of the Jewish people, by far, they loved him, that even when Moshe Rabbeinu died, it didn't say that the Jewish people were upset at all. But when Aaron a Cohen died, right, his brother, who was not the Mashiach, he was not the Redeemer, they all cried, the men and the women, because he brought peace to all of them. They all loved him. He was so kind and so nice. Yet when Aaron was told, and he saw that Moshe was going to be the Redeemer, not him, even though Moshe didn't even grow up Jewish, so to speak, he was growing up in another place, right, in the secular world, so to speak. I'm growing up, I'm religious, I'm the one who's doing all the heavy lifting, and all of a sudden you come over here and you're going to redeem us. And he was happy. He was very happy. How was he able to be that happy? Because of gratitude. He didn't look at life that I deserve anything, which is the fundamental part of this lesson tonight. What is the Jewish perspective on, do I have a right to something? Do I have a right to anything? This is probably one of the most important lessons you could ever learn in your life. If you internalize it, it'll change the way that you see your life, and it's going to make you very, very happy, because it's based on truth. And it's very different than what secular society teaches you. Our own is the concept of Hod. Hod means thanks. That's why there's 8 candles, because if you go from the highest sphere down to the eighth is Hod, which is thankfulness. So it's 8 candles of gratitude. And Aaron Cohen is the one who lit up the candles. Right? That was his whole thing. So all about gratitude, all about thanks. And in truth, in all cultures, you see that thank you is very common, right? In Spanish, it's gracias, right? In Hebrew, it's todah. In English, it's thank you, right? In every single culture, they have thanks. It's not exclusive to us. So what's different, so to speak, about a Jewish thanks and a non-Jewish thanks? What is it about us that we're named Yehuda from the person whose name comes from the word Hod, meaning thank you? Why is that our essence? How about humility? How about kindness? How about intelligence? How about our ability to make money in the financial district, you know? Why aren't we named after that? Why are we named after thank you? How is our thank you different? And the answer is that our thank you is based on a very deep recognition of reality. We're not just saying thank you because you did me a favor and you made me feel good. I'm thanking because I'm recognizing the reality, which is that Hashem is running my life. And because of that, my thank you is much deeper, right? And more than that, that I don't deserve anything. I don't deserve anything. You see this very clearly, this difference, right? Let's say, for instance, you have someone in Western society, you do him a favor, he says thank you. Okay, that's great. Maybe he feels it. He feels thanks. What about a Jew? Why is his thank you different? Because he, in his mind, should not feel that he deserved anything to begin with. You know, sometimes your husband or your father or someone does something for you, you say thank you. Why are you saying thank you? Because they made you feel good. They did something nice for you, right? Anybody can do that. What's a real thank you? I don't expect anything from you, and you did this for me. That's like a cherry on top of a cake. Where do you see this clearly? The difference between, let's say, the Torah perspective of what's reality, that we don't really deserve anything and yet everything is a free gift, versus Western society, which teaches you deserve things, right? And by the way, this is the main reason why depression and anxiety is so high in society, especially Western society. It's because we're taught that we deserve a lot of things. And the Torah... Yes, expectations. But based on lies. Meaning it's not just the expectations that's true, but it's the fact that the expectation is built on a lie that you deserve something. Where do you see in the Torah that you deserve something? Right? Where do we see that there's such a thing as rights? So you'll see if you're an American, right? My wife is trying to get her citizenship here. So she has to take a test and she has to speak about the Bill of Rights, the whole concept of America, which is the most powerful country in the world and the leading culture, and it's influencing everything in reality, right? So what is their whole thing? Bill of Rights. You have a right to happiness. You have a right to freedom. You have a right to pursue liberty and justice. You have a right to own a gun. You have a right to a lot of things. So seemingly, okay, that makes sense. That's great. What's bad about that? That's beautiful. Now it's interesting though. If you look at the Torah from the beginning to the end, I heard this from Rebbe Nachman, you don't hear once that you have a right to anything. All you hear is your responsibilities. You never hear you have a right to something, only that you're responsible for something. That's it. What do you have? The mitzvot. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. You don't hear anywhere you deserve the right to something. And it's funny, because in fact, I grew up as secular, and now I'm in the religious community. And I can tell you, not just people who dress up in black and white and they wear hats, but people who are really spiritual, they're much happier than people who are secular. Why is that? Because a secular person thinks he deserves something, and a spiritual person doesn't think he deserves anything. So therefore, when anything happens to him, it's like an amazing gift. But for a person who thinks it's coming his way, so then either he gets it and then he's just satisfied and he's looking for the next thing, or he doesn't get it and he gets angry, or he's sad, or he's frustrated, or he's, right? All of these things. In fact, you could actually see that this is really the secret of a good relationship. So for anybody here who's in a relationship, this is one of the most important pieces of a relationship advice I can give you. And it can really change your relationship completely. And in general, let's say you're not in a relationship with a male. You still have family members, you still have friends, and eventually you are going to get married, Bezrat Hashem. So to keep in mind this concept, even with your friends. What's the Western perspective of a good relationship? It's called reciprocation. I do for you, you do for me. It's like a video game, right? A plus B, and then A equals you do this for me. Right? I cooked you dinner, you rub my feet.
Give and take.
Give and take. I give, you take, you whatever. So what's good about this? I don't know, maybe you say, I'm gonna get what I give, right? That's good, so that we're equal. We're equal, right? There's another part of Western society. We're the same. Everything needs to be the same, right? I'm a woman, but I feel like a man, right? So we're the same. Do I have that body part in between my legs? No. But I can get one. And I can take hormones and grow out my beard, so I feel like I want to be the same. Sorry, you guys just ate. I don't know how you feel about stuff like this. Sorry to anybody who's done such a thing. Whatever. So, what's the perspective of a Jewish relationship? It has nothing to do with reciprocation. This is very, very important. Your main focus as a spouse should not be on what you receive, but on what you give. Meaning, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not thinking to myself, I'm gonna wash the dishes this morning so that my husband then, like gets me flowers or says a nice compliment to me. My whole mindset is, I want to give to my husband because I love him. Not because I want anything. In fact, the less that you desire your husband to give to you, the happier you're going to be. Not because your husband's a schlub and he's not going to give to you. Maybe he is. But because that's not reality. The Torah doesn't teach anywhere that you should be thinking about receiving. The whole concept of the Torah is to teach you to be a giver. Because when you're a giver, you're like Hashem. And when you're like Hashem, you're very happy. When you're like Hashem, you're very happy. When you go out with a person, right, what do you usually go out thinking? Did you like them? Yes. What does that mean that I like this person, right? When I used to go date, when I was dating somebody. What did it mean that I liked her? I mean, I like the way she makes me feel. That's what it means. Like when you ask somebody, what's your favorite food? Steak. Really? Yeah, I love steak. So they think they love steak, but they don't love steak because they have no issues with eating that cow. They love the way steak makes them feel. And if the steak were to make them feel differently, they wouldn't love the steak anymore. So they don't really love steak. Let's say I love my wife because of how she makes me feel. Let's say she stops making me feel like that, right? I'm not as handsome as I used to be. I gained a little bit of extra weight. I'm a little chunkier these days. All of a sudden, she's not saying, wow, nice biceps, I'm not getting that anymore. So what, I don't love her now? That's why I fell in love with her, because of how she makes me feel? So that's going to change. But the divorce rates in America are skyrocketing. 50% in America, 75% in California. What's the problem? The problem is I like you because of how you make me feel. And now when you don't make me feel like that, I don't like you anymore. So let me get a new you. And we start over again. And it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because it's based on this false idea there needs to be reciprocation. When your focus is on giving, you're not even worried about getting it back, right? Let's say a teacher and a student. The teacher shouldn't be thinking to himself, I'm investing in this kid so that ultimately he's going to be really successful, make a lot of money, and then support me. That's not going to work. What about a mother and his child, right? I'm not trying to give to you and give to you and to give you love and give you all these things because I want you to then be an accountant or a doctor and then support. I mean, maybe people do that, but like, it's not the lahatchila, like initially the best reason to go raise your kids. What's the Torah perspective? Because you love them. Like I heard Rav Shalom Arush say once, there are people who in the middle of the night, their wife will wake them up and say, honey, please, can you go get me Ben and Jerry's? Go to the local, right? But it's impossible to find parking. And I have to get up in a few hours to work and you're not even working. And you can go through a whole gamut of things. So why does he get up and he does it? Because he wants I owe you, right? I do this for you. I'm going to be on her good side. I don't want her to be mad at me. I do this. And then hopefully something good will come back to me. Rabbi Shalom Arush said this is a very, very weak relationship. What would be a much higher, much loftier, more Jewish approach? I want to do it because I love you. Not because I want anything back. Hashem doesn't do things to us because he wants something from you. He just does it because he loves you. And we are supposed to be modeling our approach to our life based off of this. And this doesn't just go for relationships. This goes for everything in our life, right? Like for instance, I'll be open with you guys just because I feel like it's important to be honest. Right? Like for instance, my wife never really gets me like birthday cards. Doesn't get them for me.
It's an Israeli thing.
It's an Israeli thing.
My husband's the same way.
Yeah? Never. I write her the nicest birthday cards. Wow, it's like I'm William Shakespeare. I'm like whipping up the whole thing and talking about all types of, and I mean it, I'm not looking for something in return. But then like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't get you one. And then you think like maybe that's gonna lead to, then she's gonna get one. No, never. Never got one. Maybe I got one recently, but like it doesn't happen. So when I first was in the relationship, this really hurt me. I never told her that, but it hurt me tremendously. Like, okay, so you're not a good writer, like write like in really like bad, poor English, I love you long time or something. But nothing, so it hurt me. But then I learned Torah, and I realized this is a really bad approach. She's the first girl who ever loved me. She left her country for me. She doesn't believe that a Jew should be living in America and not in Israel. Her whole family is there. She grew up, went out with me even though I was an atheist and she was religious. Her family told her not to meet me and she went anyway. She has nothing here besides me, right? I could easily lose focus of all of these things. Why? Because she didn't get me the birthday card. So I'd be a moron. But how many of us are morons? All the time. But if you learn Torah, meaning you learn the truth, so you're not focused on these things because you're focused on reality. What's the reality? I'm not giving so that I can get. Everything that I receive is a free gift. This is the essence of being a Jew. This is what it means to be Yehudi. To be a Jew means I don't believe I deserve anything. And everything is a free gift. By the way, this is the secret to a very happy life. That despite the fact that nowhere in the Torah does it teach you how to be happy, it does. And yet you have all of these books and psychology, whatever, self-help books, teaching you how to be happy, and nobody's happy. And I guarantee you, because I also did therapy, that the therapist who's teaching it, he's also not happy. So why not? And the answer is because they're looking for happiness. If you're looking for happiness, you're never going to be happy. Happy is not a goal. Happiness is a byproduct of a goal. What does that mean? I get happiness on the way to something else. But happiness doesn't come when I look for it. If you look to be happy, you won't be happy. But if you have a good goal, you're going to be very happy. Where do we have a proof for this? What's the word menucha mean? We say Shabbat is menucha. It seemingly means rest. But we know Shabbat doesn't really mean rest. It means rest from creative work. But even deeper than that, we know that Shabbat is the goal. What's the reason we have 6 days of the week and then 1 day of Shabbat? Because we have 6,000 years in this world, and then we have 1,000 years of Shabbat. Meaning, Shabbat is a sign of Olam Haba, that you don't have to work, that you don't have to toil, that you just get to enjoy everything that you built for 6 days. Meaning, what you did in all of your lifetimes, you're building something there. And by the time that time comes, meaning Shabbat comes, you can't prepare anymore. Just like when Olam Haba comes, you can't do any more mitzvot anymore. You can't do any more work. It's such an important thing that we have this in mind, that Hashem has it do us every week. We do this every single week, right? So for us, we're trying to connect to, why is Shabbat Menucha? It's because Shabbat is the goal. And because Shabbat is the goal, meaning once Shabbat becomes your goal, Olam Haba becomes your goal, right? Spiritual becomes your goal, then automatically you experience Menucha, meaning peace in your life. You can't get peace by looking for peace. Peace comes as a result, or it's a byproduct, when you have a goal. That's Menucha, right? The Beit HaMikdash is also called Menucha. We know that this is the final place, that is the spiritual epicenter that every person is going to come to and be able to connect with Hashem deeply, right? And that's the goal, the third Beit HaMikdash. That's it, redemption. So why do they call that Menucha? You're not resting there. You're praying and you're serving Hashem. That's not rest. The answer is you get rest because you attained your goal. So by having a goal, you get rest. And I can tell you this in my life, right? I went to Spain. They have something called, what's it called? Siesta. Mm-hmm. Yeah? They're not so into work there. And they, and even between the work, they like have an hour or two where they go, yeah, they go home and they eat food. They have a heavy lunch. They don't have a heavy dinner. They have a small dinner, kind of like Europe, right? Heavy lunch, and they drink a beer and they go to sleep. This is what they do every day, and then they sleep for a couple hours. They go back to work for a few hours, and then they leave. Siesta. So even though they may be getting physical rest, it doesn't mean that they're at rest on the inside. The Torah is talking about inner things. It's not about I'm putting on a show. It's about, am I really at rest? Am I really at peace? So where does that peace come from? It comes from a goal. It comes from a goal, from attaining a goal, or on the way to a goal. That's where your peace is going to come from. So, the last thing I'll just say about relationships is that your focus should be on being a giver, and not only because it's good, but you're going to be much happier because it's true. Meaning, what happens when you're just looking to receive constantly? So you're going to be constantly disappointed. I heard this from a rabbi once when I was becoming Baal Tshuva, and it made a lot of sense to me. He said, think about it. You have all these needs, these wants, these desires. She has all these needs, these wants and desires. And even if she spent hours with you telling them, she's still not going to convey to you all of her needs and wants and desires because they're going to change. Right? Or maybe she doesn't even know what she wants. Or maybe he doesn't know what he wants. And yet you're judging the other based on how they're meeting your needs. So you're destined for failure. You're destined to be disappointed every single day. But what happens if you flip it? That the guy is not focused on receiving, he's only focused on giving. And the girl is not focused on receiving, she's only focused on giving. So they're both just focused on giving. So now anything they get is like a free gift. It doesn't make a difference.
There's no expectation.
Because there's no expectations, because the expectations are not based on truth. You're not meant in your relationship for it to be reciprocal. Now, obviously, if it goes well, it will be reciprocal because everybody's focused on giving. But it's not the expectation. The expectation is, I have a partner to give to now. The more I'm giving to him, the happier I'm going to be. And this is in life, in general. This would be the main approach. Chassidut, right? This is, so just so you guys understand where Rebbe Nachman comes from. He's the great grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was a healer. He used to dress up like he was a pauper, like he was poor, like he didn't know anything, and he knew the entire Torah. And he used to heal people, and he used to help poor people, and he used to educate children as when he was a teacher, and pretend like he didn't know anything else, and he would just hang out with little kids and try to, they were orphans, and he tried to help them, right? And it ended up being that he created a whole form of connecting to God, which we'd never experienced before, where he took all of the deepest Torah that's called Kabbalah, and he made it that it's not about science and math and Hashem's names. It's about taking all of those deepest truths and living with them. And that even potato farmers can do it. And really it was a redemptive movement. It was a movement where we're trying to change the way that we connect to God for all the Jewish people, and that this should bring Mashiach. So Rebbe Nachman was his great-grandson, and he grew up in the home that the Baal Shem Tov lived in. So he had this his whole life, and he was a master of it, Chassidus. So one of the main chidushim, novelties that the Baal Shem Tov taught us is that every Jew doesn't have one soul. He has two souls. You guys know this? You have a nefesh elokit, which is a godly soul, and you have a nefesh be'amit, which is an animal soul. Okay? What is a nefesh elokit, a godly soul? It means, like the Baal Tanya says, you have a piece of God inside of you, mamash, literally. Your godly soul is a piece of God that Hashem has, so to speak, directed to be inside of you, and it's really Him Himself. So therefore, when you don't reveal that part of you, you might think to yourself, it's only on me, meaning I'm at the end, I'm going to feel regret because I never got to reveal my highest self. But the truth is, the whole world misses out, because that piece of God that you have, nobody else has, and therefore when you don't reveal it, you're hiding God in the world.
It doesn't leave you?
It doesn't leave you. It is you. You are it. You are that piece of God.
Even if a person is Rasha?
Yes, even if a person is a Rasha, it's just concealed. It doesn't leave. Then you have a Nefesh Be'amit, which is an animal soul, which is the big, important nuance that he brings, which is not your body, but it's a soul. So what is a soul? Like when we speak about souls, I remember when I was young, I saw this movie called, what was it? With Patrick Swayze. Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
The soul was like a little light, right? Yeah? So that's what I thought it was. I didn't even believe in one growing up, but I'm just saying, like, it's like a little light, okay? What is a soul? A soul means consciousness. That's what a soul means. It means a consciousness, meaning something is influencing the way I'm experiencing my life. That's called consciousness. When your consciousness elevates, it means you're experiencing your life in a more accurate, truer way, which gives birth to happiness and joy and peace. So that's a higher consciousness. And a lower consciousness is the opposite. It makes you sad, it makes you angry, all these things. Okay. Your godly soul is a higher consciousness. Your animal soul is a lower consciousness, meaning it has its own mind, so to speak, that it influences you with, and it's similar to animals, meaning its only desire is to receive physical pleasure, and your godly soul's desire is only to give. So you see that the whole war that you're constantly going through in your life is that your godly soul wants desperately to give, like God, because it is a piece of God, and God only wants to give and doesn't want to receive. And at the same time, you have an animal soul which has no interest in giving whatsoever and only wants to receive. And this is the war. In fact, the whole story about the Jews being in Egypt is that they were possessed, so to speak, by their animal souls, and their godly souls were in exile. And as a result of that, they didn't feel Hashem in their life, and they couldn't speak to Him. Why? Because He was concealed from them. And then what happens? Paro, who represents the Yetzer Hara, he's punishing you and making you feel sad and angry. Why? Because you're constantly trying to receive, like we spoke about before. All of a sudden, Moshe comes, and who's Moshe? So the piece of God that's inside of each of us, that godly soul, is called Moshe. Moshe comes to save the Jewish people, meaning the godly soul comes and he wakes you up and he tells you you're a giver, you're not a receiver. And all of a sudden he takes us out of Egypt and he brings us to the land of Israel. You'll notice there were 7 nations in the land of Israel. So according to Chassidut, right, the Baal Shem Tov's Torah, he explains that these 7 nations correspond to a different emotional attribute. Anger, sadness, gluttony, laziness, whatever. Meaning, how do you get to the land of Israel? How do you become your highest self? How do you connect to Hashem? By overcoming and extinguishing and getting rid of these 7 nations, meaning these 7 lower attributes. And it's interesting because Hashem told them, just go straight into the land, meaning you're going to be able to conquer and overcome it. And we said, let's go send spies, let's check out the land, right? I don't know, this seems really difficult. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, right? Sounds like us all the time, right? I want to get over my anger. I want to get over my gluttony. I want to get over my sadness. It's just too much. It's too overwhelming. So it's the same as the Jewish people looking at the land of Israel. What ended up happening to us? Because we didn't trust Hashem, that with Him we can do it quickly, right? And the Torah teaches we could have done it in 3 days. It took us 40 years to get in the land. We were circling the land for 40 years trying to get in, meaning to overcome all of our negative qualities that come from where? Our animal soul. Because we don't listen to Moshe, meaning we don't listen to the godly soul inside of us. We don't reveal that part of ourselves, so we don't enter the land. So we're learning now that the key to accessing your godly soul is through thanks. And through the perspective of I don't deserve anything, and my focus is only on giving. When I wake up in the morning, a good day for me is not how much I got that day. It's how much I gave that day. And this is not like some like hippie new age, like bourgeois, philosophy I'm trying to give you. It's the truth. You don't deserve anything. I'm not saying it to be mean or to be harsh. It's actually the most liberating thing when you realize everything is a gift. You can walk, you're very lucky. You live in a first world country, you're very lucky. You go to the market, you can get anything you want, you're very lucky. I was in a third world country in the Middle East, North Africa. Their market and all their food is covered in flies. It's disgusting, right? When was the last time that you said thank you to Hashem and you meant it, that I'm able to mamash literally walk down the street and get whatever I want from anywhere? It's amazing. It's like messianic. It's something that people for thousands of years would die for. They literally died in famine for this, and you never thought about it. Why? Because we're not connected to our godly soul. We're only focused on receiving. We don't see the truth of our lives. Right? You have 2 eyes, you're very lucky. You don't have a cleft lip, you're very lucky. You're married, you're very lucky. You can breathe, you're very lucky. Did you ever notice that the 2 things that you need, water and oxygen, are the most plentiful and the cheapest things that there are? And it's the only things you really need? And yet everything that you want, which is hard to get, is expensive. So how lucky are we? But we don't focus on that because we're only focused on receiving. What does neshama mean? It means breath. The sages say that with every breath you took, if you were really in tune spiritually, you would have to stop and thank Hashem. This is a miracle. I'm breathing. There was a guy, he used to jump into a lake every morning until he couldn't breathe anymore. And he jumped, and they used to come to him. And then he'd like go on with the day, like it was completely normal, like go to work, whatever. So they went to him and they said, like, dude, it's a little weird. You know, I got it the first time, it was cool, you know, like you're a hero, whatever you're doing, but it's freezing now outside, and you just jumped in the, and he said, you don't understand, it's the best part of my day. I go in, I can't breathe, I go up, and I realize like how lucky I am I can breathe. That's the best way to start the day. Did it every day his whole life, right? I'm not saying we have to do this, but if you do have a lake next to you, you can try it. And yeah, it's like, oh, Rabbi David, you know, he just got a smicha. He told me to do this. It's good for connecting to Hashem. Where do we see this whole thanking versus receiving? You know, is this just a philosophy the Torah gives? You really see it in the Torah. So, interestingly, what was the first twin relationship? Meaning, you have 2 consciousness, you have 2 souls. It's Yaakov and Esav, right? They're twins. They're born in the womb. They're fighting in the womb. What are they? They are the godly soul and the animal soul. Yaakov and Esav were not just people. They are 2 aspects of yourself. Yaakov is your godly soul. Esav is your animal soul. This is the reason why Yaakov is intense all the time, learning Torah, and Esav's in the field all the time, right? Getting food, right? He gave up his birthright, which was spiritual, for soup, which was physical. Why? Because he doesn't desire to give, he desires to receive, because he's the animal soul. Yaakov doesn't desire to receive, he only desires to give. So for him, I'll give you anything I have physically, so I can have this birthright to serve Hashem. This is the, right? And then what happened at the end of their lives, right? They both went their separate ways. Esau was very successful at accruing physical things, and Yaakov was very successful at giving to Hashem and becoming a spiritual master. And at the end of all of it, they come and they see each other, and it's an epic moment. And what does Esau say to Yaakov? Yesh li Rav, I have a lot. He says, I have a lot. After everything, I have a lot.
Yesh li ma?
Yesh li Rav.
Rav?
Yeah, there is to me a lot.
Yesh li Rav.
Yeah. What does Yaakov say? Yesh li kol. There is to me everything. I have everything. Did he have more than Esau? No. But it didn't make a difference, because when a person is not focused on receiving, he's only focused on giving, he always has what he needs. There's a very deep thing that was going on between them. Esau was saying, despite the fact that I got all these wives and all this money and all this success in the secular world and all of these things, I only have a lot. What does a lot mean? I want more. But what is Yaakov? Yaakov, he also achieved a lot of physical success. He also was very wealthy. He also married multiple wives. He also had a beautiful family. But for him, yesh li kol, I have everything always. And even if I didn't have these things, I still have everything. When you say Birkat HaMazon, you say bakol mikol kol. What's this whole concept of kol? That Avraham had kol, and Yitzhak had kol, and Yaakov had kol. That we have everything. Everything, everything, everything. We're thanking Hashem, you give us everything. But you may not have everything, right? Maybe I'm not married. Maybe we can't conceive with a child. Maybe I have emotional issues. Maybe I was traumatized as a kid. Maybe I was abused. I don't have everything. I'm missing a lot. And the answer is, if you're Jewish, you have kol. You have kol because your desire is not to receive. When your desire is only to give, you always have what you need. And you're very happy. That's why in Birkat HaMazon, even though it says you should eat and you should be satiated and you should bless Hashem, and by the way, this is the only mitzvah in the Torah that's actually a blessing. Not that in the Torah itself, you have to bless on learning Torah. But the only fit for a physical thing, everything else the rabbis made up. Not made up, I mean it's real, but you know what I mean. The Torah actually says you have to eat and to thank and to bless Hashem for what you ate, to be satiated. So what do they mean when said satiated? You would think it would mean I'm going to Bravo's Pizza and I have a whole pie to myself. Now I'm satiated and I'll thank Hashem. And if I don't get to that point, I'm not satiated, so I'm not going to do the mitzvah that way. What do the sages teach? What do the rabbis teach? If you have a kazayit of bread, this much, you should say Birkat HaMazon. How is that possible? I'm not full after that. The answer is, if you're not looking to receive, you are full after that. But if you're looking only to receive, then no, you need much more. Everybody understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes.
You look confused.
Yeah, mesmerized.
What does that mean if you're looking to receive when you're eating? I'm looking to eat a little and be satiated?
Meaning, I'm eating for the sake of eating. Once that's the case, automatically you're not going to be satiated. Because it's a limitless enterprise. It's a physical, you're looking for something physical to fill you up.
But are you eating to have energy to do more good things?
Right, you'll be full quicker.
But you're eating with that purpose?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. When you have a purpose to what you do, which is really what the Torah is trying to teach you, don't eat for the sake of eating. Eat so that you have energy to now be a good mother, to be a good wife, to serve Hashem, right? Whatever it is, eat for a purpose. You'll notice actually something amazing. If you eat, I'm telling you because I have an addiction to food. Really, it's like one of my things that I'm working on trying to. It's very hard for me. I can't stop eating and I don't know why. I was always like this. My kids are like this. Also, which is very scary for me. So how do you work on this? The answer is, why am I eating right now? Right? I'm sitting in front of the food. I had one slice. I had two slices. I know I'm full. I know it in my mind. Do I feel full? No. Why don't I feel full? Because I'm just looking to enjoy. But let's say, for instance, I was really busy, and I was like the president of the United States, and I had a million things to do. I was the most important person in the world. How busy would I be thinking about how much I have to eat? How much do you think Trump is eating?
You don't have time.
You don't have time, and you don't care. Why? Because you're so motivated, you're so juiced up, you're not thinking about it. Right? You go on a roller coaster, you're not thinking afterwards, I want a steak dinner right now. You're so happy, you're exhilarated, right? But us in our lives, because we're so empty, and we need to fill up, or because we're so stressed and we don't have tools to deal with it emotionally, we're not doing Yibodadut. So what happens? Your steak becomes your Yibodadut. Your ice cream pint becomes your Yibodadut, right? So this is what the Torah is teaching you. When you do physical actions, ask yourself, why am I doing it? If you're doing it for a higher purpose than the thing itself, you're going to be energized by the act. But if you do it for the physical act itself, what you're doing is you're cutting off that thing's soul. Everything has a soul. When you eat food, that food has a soul and it has a body, right? So to speak, not to gross you out, but in the metaphorical sense. It has a soul and it has a body. When you're eating the food for the sake of a higher goal, you're going to connect to the soul in the food. You're going to be energized.
That's what we say.
Yes, that's exactly what you say a bracha. I was going to bring it up. It's interesting. So you should say that according to Jewish law, if the whole essence of being a Jew is saying thank you, so then we should have to say thank you all the time. According to the law, not that it's a nice thing, you should have to. And you know what's interesting? You do. The Torah says you have to make 100 blessings a day. Okay, so many people already think we're OCD, but what's the whole obsession with saying thank you 100 times a day? The answer is, this is what your whole life is about. It's not for Hashem. Hashem doesn't care. It's for you. Right? Like I remember when I was a kid and I grew up in a Reformed temple. So I was only there for like Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. And I'm sure it's not the same nusach that we have in these places here. Anyway, I thank you, I praise you, I love you, you're the best, I'm nothing, you know. Why does Hashem need that? I never understood it, it always bothered me. And the answer is, he doesn't need it, you need it. When you thank and thank and thank and thank something else, you feel really good, you feel really whole. But when you're looking to receive, you don't enjoy, right? The person who's the most grateful is going to enjoy the thing the most. Like for instance, I was getting my smicha today with, thank God, like 7 other guys. Guys who grew up, for the most part, religious, right? Maybe they've already gotten smicha, I don't know. I started crying hysterically like a baby, right? A lot of people came up to me like, are you okay? Did something happen to you? Why are you crying? You just got smicha. And I was like, I'm fine, everything's okay. I was so happy. I was just so happy.
Probably never thought you'd be there.
Never. And
I missed it.
And you know what it is? Because I talk to Hashem for at least an hour a day, so because of this, I'm constantly talking about my life and what I've been through.
An hour? Is like, can it be less?
Okay. So the answer is it can be less. The goal is to have an hour.
Yeah?
Yeah, the goal is to have an hour.
Everybody gets calm.
So the way it starts is start with 10 minutes. Start with 10 minutes a day. And when you feel good with that, add a little bit.
What if a person is talking to themselves?
What do you mean, what if?
Like, is talking
You
to
mean like I'm
yourself?
talking to God, but you're talking to yourself, or the opposite?
No, you're just talking to yourself, but you're in this quiet place.
Oh, you're not saying that what if God doesn't hear me? You're saying like what if I'm like, so we'll send you to an emergency center and we'll get you. Yeah. What do you mean? What's the question?
Not me, like, does talking to yourself count if you're in a closed room?
No.
No? Because it's not intended towards him.
Yeah, you have to be talking to Hashem.
So you say, dear God?
No, you don't say dear God. Is that like in a novel you read?
No. That's how I start my.
Oh, you could. Sorry, I don't mean to belittle you.
No,
You can say dear God for sure. That's what you like. Rebbe Nachman says you should speak to Hashem like he's your best friend. This is one of the big novelties of Rebbe Nachman, is that yes, when it comes to the Amidah, he's the king, but when it comes to my 1 hour chill with Hashem, so he's not my king, he's my best friend.
It's true. I didn't have kids for 8 years, so me and my husband would get beers or Smirnoff Ice.
Yeah.
We'd go to the park,
Wow.
and and we just sat and he was in his corner, I was in my corner, and we did it.
Wow, you guys are breast lovers.
Somebody,
No, we're honest, but anyways.
somebody told me.
Yeah,
talk to
and that's
God.
how we hung out.
Okay.
That was our
Wow,
Saturday
you're a very
night
holy
and Sunday,
couple.
whatever, like our date night, and we just did
It's
it.
beautiful.
Somebody told me talk to God the way you talk to me. The way
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
talk to
so
your
Rebbe
friends.
Nachman says very clearly you need to speak to Hashem like he's your best friend. So what does that mean? What would you tell your best friend? Right? I have people who they can speak to me for 10 hours straight. I can't talk to Hashem, I have nothing to say. I'm like, trust me, you have plenty to say. You have plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer is, I know an hour sounds like a lot, but I promise you if you had one of your girlfriends over, you would have no problem speaking for an hour. What?
I can talk their ears off.
Okay, so why can't you do it with Hashem?
I can.
Okay, so go ahead.
And he won't judge you, and he won't talk about you behind your
Except to me. No, I'm just kidding. The goal should be an hour, right? If you find you're able to do 5 minutes, do 10 minutes. If you feel you can do 10 minutes, do 15 minutes. It took me a few years before I could do an hour. But you, like we said before, you have to have a goal. Rebbe Nachman, there's a reason, right? Like for instance, there's something called a threshold. In general, it's like this. Like you do something enough and you hit a threshold and all of a sudden something changes for you. I can tell you, like, I did 15 minutes of Ibodah, I did a half an hour, I now do at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours. Something about an hour, something changes. I had a guy who came to me, he was a Baal Tshuva, he was completely alone, he was like downtrodden, and I hear me talking about Ibodah do it every day, and he probably did like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and he said, you know what, like I'm done, like I'm not doing this anymore. Not just this, I don't want to be Jewish, like I don't want to do this anymore, I'm over it. My life's not working, X, Y, and Z. He said, you know what, David keeps talking about an hour, I'm going to do 1 hour before I give up. He did an hour, he told me, David, I have to thank you so much. I felt God for the first time in my life. I experienced God. I'm telling you, it's a common thing for people, and I don't know how to explain it, but when a tzaddik gives advice, you don't know how much is going on in his mind. He wasn't giving you like, oh, it's a good, you do 23 hours of other stuff, do an hour, right? And there's a reason for the hour. There's a lot of reasons for the hour. The hour is the goal. Yeah.
I got an interview thanks to him. Thanks to talking to him.
Baruch Hashem. I'm telling you, you're gonna have a million things that are gonna happen to you, and then you're gonna be more and more thankful. And that's really one of the connecting pieces. Is where do we express these things, right? Somebody might say, "I'm doing the Amidah." You're not really saying thank you. Okay, so maybe I'm saying Tehillim. Maybe you have some thanks in there, but they're not in your own words. Really, the only place that you can express that gratitude in words is in your Hibodedut. One of the reasons why Rebbe Nachman was so makpid that you need to do Hibodedut is so you have a time to say thank you. Not just for the good, but also for the bad. This is also another big thing by Rebbe Nachman. Don't just say thank you for the good, thank you for the bad. I remember there was Rav Shalom Arush came from Israel, and a lot of people went to go hear him, and he was talking about a girl who's abused. She should thank Hashem that her parents abused her. And everybody's listening like, wow, what is he saying? This is like heretical, this is horrible, But by Rebbe Nachman, it's the truth. And I know it's hard to hear maybe at first, but why are you thanking Hashem for this? Because Hashem did it for you. Now, how does that make sense? You don't know yet, right? You don't understand yet. Why would Hashem do this to me? That's another question. But you know that Hashem did it. Nothing happens to you, right? This is a very big mistake that people make, even religious people make. That Hashem does certain things and then he lets things happen. According to Rebbe Nachman, he's not letting anything happen. He's actively causing everything to happen. Everything happens in your relationship, everything that happens when you go in the bathroom by yourself. All of these things, Hashem is causing these things. In Kabbalah, they call him the cause of all causes. That even if it looks like something else is happening, it's really Hashem. So your approach needs to be that I'm going to thank Hashem for the good and bad, because for you, they should be the same. Part of the reason the bad is bad, by the way, is simply because you're focused on receiving in that moment. If you're always focused on giving, a lot of that bad that you think is bad is really good. Right? David HaMelech, who is the concept of Mashiach, we know he has the soul of Mashiach, right? What did he do? He used to thank Hashem constantly to the point that he said to Hashem, I thank you when you're Elokim, and I thank you when you're Yud Kei Vav Kei. What's the difference? So we know that Elokim is Hashem when he's hiding himself from you. And Hashem is Yud Kei Vav Kei when He's revealing Himself to you. So David is saying, I'm thanking you when you're hiding, and I'm thanking you when you're there. Why? Because they're both for the same reason, because you love me. This is the Emunah of a Jew. The faith of a Jew is that everything that happens is for the absolute best. I've been through multiple depressive episodes. It was good for me. Thank you. And I hope that one day you'll let me find out why. Right? I was abused by my parents. Right? I was sexually abused by my cousin. And I don't understand why you would do this to me, but I know it wasn't him. I know it was you, Hashem. And I thank you for it, even though I don't understand why right now. And I hope one day you'll let me see why. And Rebbe Nachman teaches that when you thank Hashem for the problem, not only is the problem going to be resolved, you will find out why it happened. You're also going to find out why it's taking place. Even within your Ibodedut, I promise you, if you thank Hashem, not because David says so, not because I hear it's the right thing to do, but you're really able to thank Him even without understanding why, you'll see within the Ibodedut itself, an answer is going to pop into your head of why this thing was good for you. It happens, I'm telling you.
It's true. My cousin's going through chemo. 30 years old, diagnosed with stage 4 incurable cancer. So all the Rebbeim, she went to Israel, she made Aliyah by herself, got married in Israel, has a baby, 8 months old. She went to all the Rebbeim and they're like, you have to pray for Klal Yisrael, and Klal Yisrael has to pray for you. Mm-hmm. Her husband's so depressed. Imagine, a year married, his new bride has cancer. He hated the world, don't nobody talk to me, nothing. All of a sudden, he started learning with Breslev, just a Breslev rabbi. He comes, he sees my cousin, and he's like, Rivka, Esther, what are you doing to the Shemaim? He's like, you're turning the heavens over. Mm. And she goes and she gives little, videos like, thank you, Hashem, thank you, Hashem. You look at her, she doesn't even look like she's sick. She looks amazing, I'm telling you. All she does is thank you, Hashem.
There's a person in this community, I don't know if you guys know him, I heard about him. He was diagnosed with Crohn's, but in a very late, so to speak, stage of it. I don't know if there's stages of Crohn's, but at a point where there was no help, and Crohn's can be life-altering and debilitating, it could kill you. And the doctors told him he wasn't going to make it, and he only had months left to live. And when this happened, he started also to get into Breslev and to learn Rebbe Nachman's teachings. Like a lot of people, when they go through difficulties, they start to connect to Rebbe Nachman. And what is he learning? To do Ibodedut, to speak to Hashem for an hour a day, and to thank Hashem for the Crohns. Thank Hashem for the Crohns.
But ultimately, that's why God gives these things.
For sure, 100%. He was doing this every day, and then his dad, who was not religious, right, like a lot of Bukharians, they're very into palm reading and magic and all types of bizarre things. So he told his son, he told his son, you have to come with me. We need to speak to somebody. He said, I'm not doing it. It's a Avodah Zarah. He said, you're going to die anyway. What are you going to lose?
His father
said this. So he said, okay, to make his dad happy, he went with him. You're not going to believe this non-Jewish, palm reader, he looks at him, whatever he was, and he said to him, whichever rabbi you're learning from, he's good. Keep learning from him.
Oh, wow.
That was what he said. He left.
That's crazy.
A non-Jew?
Yeah. Soon after this, he gets a phone call from a random hospital who says that they're doing a new treatment, an alternative medical treatment, and his name was in the lottery, and he was chosen to do it. And he said to him, do you want to be part of it? And he said, sure. He's completely healed. He has no Crohn's anymore. He completely changed his life, whatever he was doing, he was in business, whatever, All he does is teach Rebbe Nachman's Torah like I'm doing now to a group of people every single day, and he's just like Hashem, and that's it. And by the way, if you guys want to get mechazik in this and strengthened in this concept, there's a book that Rav Shalom Arush put out in English. It says, say thank Hashem and see miracles, or something like this. You can go to any Jewish bookstore. You have over 100 stories just like the one I just told you, real life stories, just in the past 10, 20 years, of people who thanked Hashem for their problem, and it went away. Every day for an hour, thank Hashem for the problem. I have a student, actually I used to be a mental health therapist, and when I was working at OHEL in Brooklyn, I had a client there who I really connected to. He was mid-20s, very smart, a deep thinker, very lonely, by himself. He has bipolar disorder. And I always felt like me and him are not that different. That like if I had different circumstances, I would easily could have ended up like him. Instead, I'm over here, like pretending like I'm a professional and I have my stuff together and I don't. And we used to talk for a long time. And I used to tell him that like I do this thing called Iboda do it. It really helps me. It helps me a lot. I grew up with depression, all these things, and it really, really helps me. So I didn't realize that he never told me like I started doing Iboda do. So then I didn't speak to him for like a year or 2 years later, and my former coworker said, your client, this guy, he wants to get in contact with you, right? Because I left there and I started learning in yeshiva. So I finally spoke to him. He said, David, you don't understand how much of an impact you made in my life. I've been talking to Hashem for at least an hour every day since we met a couple of years ago, thanking Hashem for 1 hour straight for my bipolar disorder. Every day for a couple of years now. He said, I feel much, much better. I have like a place like in society now. I'm not like secluded by myself. I live with somebody else. Like I have a life now. And right, he said I'm not 100% better, but like I have hope now. So to be a Jew is to be thankful. To be a Jew is to be thankful.
I did that with not having kids for so long. I did that. I had twins.
Oh,
Girl
Hashem.
and boy, yeah.
Thank God.
After the 7th year too.
Yeah.
So I told my husband our 7-year bad luck passed, and this baby my son wanted. So it works. I'm telling you, every day it works.
Because like she said, why is Hashem doing this to you? Right? It seems cruel. But if you realize Hashem only created you so that He can give you all of the good, and what's all of the good? That He's giving, you're receiving from Him, and that you know it's from Him. Right? If you don't realize it's from Him, it's not great for you. It's not awesome for you. It's not gewaldic for you. It's like, right? Imagine that someone is like, let's say behind the scenes of every relationship you have, or every situation, like your boss. Imagine that behind your boss is a guy who's giving him the money to give to you. And that same guy is the one who caused your husband to meet you. And he's the same person who sold you your house, right? And he's the same person, and X, Y, and Z, everything in your life, he's the cause. Now, you don't know him, right? You never heard of him. So you're not so thankful for him. And you're not so thankful for all these different things in your life because they all seem separate. But when you realize that only one guy caused all of these things, and he's the one who's constantly the one giving you, now all those things are so much more special for you. So why does Hashem cause us to have difficulties? It's to make us recognize and wake up and realize we need Him. And when we realize we need Him, and we ask Him for help, then He's going to show us that in all areas of our life, it's always been Him. And then everything becomes very sweet. And everything becomes a gift. And then you can do Ibodah for an hour. It's not going to be hard for you to speak for an hour. Because you're going to say thank you every day for the same thing, and it's not going to be the same. You're going to say thank you for your husband or for your wife, and it's not the same thank you. And for your kids, and it's not the same thank you. And people say to me, it sounds repetitive. Every day I'm thanking for the same thing. I'm like, but you're not the same person. You shouldn't be the same person today that you were yesterday. Rebbe Nachman says, if you wake up today, and you're not trying to be better than you were yesterday, there's no reason to be here anymore. That's what you have today for. It's a new day. Every day should be different. Every day you should be changing. Every day you should be thinking and growing and getting closer to Hashem. And the main way to get closer to Hashem is through thank you. This is the reason why Mashiach comes from Yehuda. It's because he's going to teach us all how to say thank you. Even for the problem. And Bezrat Hashem, with this, we should all see healing for all of our illnesses, and we should see redemption in all of our lives. We should peace in our relationships. If you have a sickness, chas v'shalom, it should go away. All of these things. You should all realize, I'm telling you right now, I grew up an atheist. I was not connected at all to any of these things. And I'm telling you, Hashem is really real. He's not real in the sense that He exists. He's real in the sense that everything is Him. Eino milvado. It's not a nice tagline. It's true. There's nothing else besides Hashem. He uses everything in your life to communicate with you, but it's not them. It's really Hashem. Everything is Hashem, right? We learned in this past week's parsha, Yosef was sold into slavery. They thought and hoped he would die. He didn't die. As a result of that, he ended up going to jail for many years. He was a slave for many years. 20 years he was away from his family. his brothers come and they see him, and all of a sudden they need him to survive. And he says to them, without them saying anything, don't be angry, don't be sad, don't think about this on the way home, because Hashem sent me here. This is what it means to be a Jew. Everything is from Hashem. The more that becomes your whole way of thinking, happier you're going to be, the more peace you're going to have in your life, the better your relationships are going to be, and the more you're going to meet the purpose of your life. That's why you're here. It's to get to this point. So, Bezrat Hashem, you should all experience this. If you have any questions, anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
If you have, let's say you're praying to have better character traits, are you supposed to thank for the negative ones?
First, yes, you should.
And then you're supposed to ask for
Yes. Yes, you should thank Hashem that you have the issue first. Yeah.
If I'm supposed to have a mindset that I don't deserve anything, then I know it's coming from a humble place, but I'm still asking for Hashem for these things that I think that I need or things that I want. So it's
Yeah, but it's not. But it's not coming from because I deserve it. It's because you want it. It's different.
okay.
Okay. So like, let's say for instance, you're praying, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It's not because I think you should give it to me, and therefore, where is the prayer gonna come from? It's gonna come from a place of bitterness, right? I'm praying from bitterness. So this isn't based on truth. That's based on I think I deserve. But if you're praying from yearning, you want it, you're yearning for it. That's very holy, and Hashem loves that.
even if it's materialistic.
Even if it's materialistic, if you think it's from Him, right? But ultimately, to connect back to Him, meaning Hashem, help give me a really big home, so that I can have a beautiful big family, and I can have a lot of people over, and I should be able to bring people close to Hashem and let them see that people who are religious are not just poor and living in the streets, they can also be successful, and right? So if you're doing it for that reason, Hashem loves that. Good, kol kavod, He'll want to give it to you. Rebbe Nachman says you should pray for everything, everything. I think I told you guys this. There was a student he probably was gaining a little bit of weight as well, and one of his buttons popped out of his shirt, and he goes, "Oh," he says, "What?" He goes, "I lost a button." He goes, "Okay, what are you gonna do?" He goes, "I'm gonna go to the store and get the button." I said, "You're not gonna pray to Hashem for the button?" He said, "Why would I pray to Hashem for the button? I'm gonna go to the tailor and get a button." And he goes, "And who says the tailor's gonna have the button you need? And who says the tailor's gonna be there today? Who says they're gonna be open today? How do you know? Pray for the button." It sounds very silly. By the way, one of the students that was in the class, he was a younger guy, and he was listening to me, and these are all new ideas for him. He goes, "What happened to the button?" He never came again after that. He's still wondering what happened to that button. The answer is nothing is too small and nothing is too big. And by the way, this is going to help you be more grateful. For instance, like I say, "Please Hashem, help me to go to the bathroom," and that I don't feel pain afterwards. Now the truth is, I never really felt pain from going to the bathroom, really. I mean, sometimes, but very unusually. Why am I thanking Him and asking Him not to? Because the truth is, this whole time it was a free gift that I was able to not have pain. That's why you say Asher Yatzar. It's a miracle. I don't have any pain. If you guys ever felt pain from going to the bathroom, it's a terrible pain. So you say thank you to Hashem, and you say to Hashem, "Please help me not," and then you don't, then you can say thank you. Thank you, Hashem. And you realize it came from Him. Sometimes I'll say, "Hashem, help me to have 3 meals today. I never had a problem eating in my life. Thank God." But then when I get that meal, I'm able to say Bodhidut at the end of the day or the beginning of the next day, say, "Hashem, thank you that you fed me 3 meals. It's not a given. Nothing is a given. The Torah is teaching you everything is a free gift. Everything is a free gift. There was a person who came to Rav Natan. He was telling me, "My wife is this, and she's that, and she's this, and she's that. She's not doing this for me." Not doing that. He said, "Who said you deserve something better? Who told you that?" He was serious. He wasn't trying to give him musar. He was saying, "Who told you you deserve something better than that? Does she love you? Yes. She help you have kids? Yes. Is she staying with you? She's loyal? Yes. Okay, so who says you deserve anything else? You should thank Hashem." By the way, just a funny story I heard. There was a guy, I forget the name. If I remember, I'll tell you guys. He was a rabbi, and he had a wife who was a rebbitzin. She was very influential and had a very positive impact in the community. One time there was this guy who kept saying, I want to get divorced, I want to get divorced, I want to get divorced, I can't take my wife, I can't take my wife. She was always talking about it. It was like, listen. But one day, he's like, that's it, I'm really doing it. I'm really, really doing it, I'm ending it. The Rebbetzin couldn't hear it anymore, she couldn't take it anymore. So when he left, she got really mad. She took a mirror and she brought it over to his house. And the rabbi came because he's like, what is my wife doing? Walks over with him, takes the mirror, knocks on the door, asks for the guy comes out, he goes, hey Rebbetzin, what's going on? He says, look! He says, yeah. He goes, you see yourself? He said, yeah. He said, who's gonna marry you? He never complained again about the relationship. Who's gonna marry you if you leave your wife? Anyway, the answer is you're a Yehudi. It means that you're grateful. Now, if you're not grateful, it's just because you don't realize what Hashem is doing for you. So how do you realize it? By thanking Hashem for the good and for the bad. By talking to Hashem, trying to do an hour a day. If you do 10 minutes, do 15 minutes, do 15. You have to try at least, but to make sure you do it every day. It has to be constant. You have to. And it's not going to fall into your lap. A lot of the guys tell me, yeah, like if time comes. Time's not coming for that, trust me. And you'll have time to be watching YouTube videos in the bathroom for 3 hours. That's going to come to you very easily. Yeah.
Doesn't matter the time of the day?
No.
What if it's twice a day?
It's great. I do it many times a day. As often as I can do it, I talk to Hashem.
Because you say once a day.
No, so I'm trying to tell you, like, this is like baseline, what I need to do in order to feel really close to Hashem and to be really happy.
So you can do 15, 15, 15?
You can. It's better you do all one time. I thought she meant one and then like also time later.
No, I meant like
15,
once in
15.
the morning, once.
Yeah, but how much time?
I don't know.
Whatever it
it's
is.
inconsistent.
You can and you should be speaking to Hashem as much as you can whenever it is, but you should try to do at least one of those segments is close to an hour.
In the bathroom is like.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
No, I know that.
No, you shouldn't. You
I
shouldn't.
know.
I know people who they might do it to get themselves in, like, say, stop wasting seed, like Hashem help me, like that's okay.
What I heard.
Yeah.
But
So
that
that
no,
you're not
it's
saying God's name, right? You're not saying your kivavke. You can. You should try pick a better spot. It's also
it's not me.
No, not you personally. I'm just saying like a person, right? It's like Rebbe Nachman says you should try to do it in nature. You should try to do it in the woods. You should try to do it in a forest. And by the way, I've done it in my car. I've done it in my house. I've done it in the forest. I've done it in the field. Right? There's a person here who set up this class. He does it in crazy places. He went to, I think last year, he went to the lake over here when it was frozen over, and he walked across it with his eyes closed, doing an hour Vibo to do it. You don't have to do things like this. I'm sure that was a very intense experience for him.
Wait, what if you connect with nature? There's no,
You just happened to walk in and you heard what we were speaking about. Look at that. Hashgacha pratit. You see? Not that he's the guy or anything, but.
I am the guy.
So, any other questions?
Does it need to be before Shkia?
No, this isn't a chiyuv. You don't have to do this.
No, but I'm saying that you said to do it each day. Like, does it have to be like?
So,
like
Rebbe
a
Nachman
halachic day?
suggests you should do it before the day starts.
Yeah.
The best time to do it is before you do anything. Part of the reason is just practical, meaning if I pray for certain things to happen, and then the day happens, I get to see my prayers answered. What happens if I do it right before I go to sleep? So then all of a sudden I might forget what I prayed for, and the next day happens, some of those things might take place, and I don't get to recognize it. That's one thing. The other thing is, you're going to be tired at the end of the day. So that's an issue. Most people, when they do it at night, they fall asleep as they're doing it. It's not the best, right? Another thing is, Rebbe Nachman says that there's a consciousness to where you live. It's not just you have a consciousness. There's a consciousness to the time. There's a consciousness to the day. These are all based on the very deep teachings. That means that in the morning when you wake up before the whole world starts, like at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., so the consciousness is one of peace, and you're able to think clearly. Once the day is busy and people start chasing after money, you get connected to that consciousness. So when you speak to Hashem in that time, you feel more rushed. That's part of the reason why he says you should go try to do it in the woods, because by separating yourself from the natural society, so to speak, you're able to connect to a still place and to speak from that place. That's what helps you get out of the hustle bustle of the world. Any other questions?
I like your terminology.
Thank you. I'm making it up as we speak. Bezrat Hashem, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and try to bring more people. You know, there's a lot of light here. There's a lot of people who could be helped by these things. Thank God you guys are amazing listeners, and you're better students than my guys are coming every day. Different students. And it says that in the merit of women, the geula is going to happen. Right? In the merit of women, the rabbis say, the redemption is going to happen. And why is that? Rebbe Nachman says when they're speaking. Not to each other or by the water cooler at their work, but to Hashem. So when your mouth's open and you speak to Hashem, the redemption is going to come. So we need to get as many women as possible to be talking to Hashem. And you're going to see we're all going to be in the land of Israel with Mashiach and the Beit HaMikdash. And only good things in our life. Okay? Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.
Oh, whoever wasn't added on like the WhatsApp group, if you want your name and number, and I'll add you guys so you guys get the lectures. I'll add my phone.